What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Bronx Pinstripe Show. We're recording slightly late because Mother Nature delayed the Yankees 3 days off in the middle of the season. Obviously, that doesn't happen unless it's the All-Star break. Scott, the offense has gone cold, and I'm preparing everyone for the narrative that the rain ruined the Yankees offense. That's what I'm going with.
It's not the rain, it's the time off.
Caused by the rain.
It's the time off. Yeah. But, like sometimes when you get older, the rain can affect your joints and you can just, it's like you're like a barometer, like a human barometer walking around. But the time off, the timing this is a very convenient and excuse that's used frequently in the playoffs. It's like the number one go-to. If you have any time off, that's what you look at for playoff inactivity in a particular game. So let's go with it. But they still did what they needed to do, and winning series is the name of the game. That's what happened.
By any means necessary. They scored 5 runs. They left a small village on base every game against Texas, but they still won the series. And that's what we talked about after the winning streak came to an end. It's like, okay, now you got to focus on winning series, and you do that, you're gonna be fine as long as you just focus on series to series, win those series.
And it goes back to the different feeling of this team, right? Like the different feeling of this team is now things don't go exactly our way every time. Offense isn't clicking every time. Still winning series. Still doing the things. You got guys like Nestor Cortes pitching no hitters into the 8th inning instead of the bats carrying you. So this team can win in multiple ways, and I actually love that. I love the fact that even when not going well, still coming out with W's.
Last year, that ball off Chapman's bat in the ninth, the ball off of Chapman in the 9th inning goes out. For some reason, I got scared when I forget who hit the ball off Chapman in the 9th with a guy on. I was like, oh, that looks. He looked like he got it for a second there, and I guess the wind killed it, and Gallo had a little bit of a battle with the wind and the sun, but I thought that ball was gone.
I mean, Gallo had a little bit of a battle in the outfield a few different times, taking a step back when he's reading a ball off of the bat and then it drops in front of him. He's done that a few times. He just hasn't looked great in the outfield. Does it give you the same feeling?
Everyone who's ever played left field at Yankee Stadium during the day says it's a nightmare.
Yeah, but this is a night game, but it did give you not the same sensation of the one I'm referring to, the one I'm about to refer to, the sensation that you got when James Paxton threw that ball, and the off the bat when Boone left him in the playoff game in 2019.
The peak, the highlight of the 2019 playoff run was when James Paxton was left in a game and gave up a ball to the back of the wall. Crowd went nuts because they let the pitcher pitch. That's that.
I was 15 beers deep. It was great.
It was. But like we said, the offense was non-existent over the 2 days, and it's tough, right? 3 days off, and then a doubleheader on Mother's Day, and then a quick turnaround with a day game on Monday. A lot of missed opportunities with runners in scoring position that the Yankees were cashing in on during their 11-game win streak, and maybe you say that this is just water finding its level. The numbers are going to come back down to earth and even out. Whatever it is, I point to a few bad at bats, namely Aaron Hicks, with guys on base, and it's just these non-productive nothing at bats with guys on base that I was hoping this team was mostly behind, kind of bit them in the ass over these 2 days against Texas.
I mean, these at bats are always going to show up. They're always going to have, with the amount of games and situations that they're going to be in. When you get runners on, what is that? What is getting runners on the base path gives you the opportunities to do certain things. Puts you in those scenarios more often than not. So you're going to run into that. They were able to come out with a win. They did what they had to do to win the game, and that's all that matters to me. This is all part of the story. This is all part
that
of
matters.
the VHS.
Well, if that's
parade.
all that matters, then we're just gonna have a really tough time with this podcast all year. We have to analyze something. We have to go into detail on something.
I hope we have to look for things to analyze, like we've been a little bit, in the sense that like it's hard to find the places where they can improve upon, because this team's been so good. So I hope all year long this is a problem for us to find like the things to point at, because the team has been good. Anthony Rizzo been struggling too. Like that guy carried this team for however long. They're going to come back down to earth. That's baseball season, part of the job, and part of the why the sport is so beautiful, because there is a yin and yang. And even when both sides, like there's no one really doing all that great, they're still finding ways to win, and I love that.
They went 0 for 5, 1 for 6, and then 0 for 4 with runners in scoring position in the 3 games. It's like, this is not me inventing things to get angry about, and I'm not necessarily angry because they still did win the game, and I'm happy about that. But they did not perform with men on base in the series. You can't just ignore that fact.
No, for sure. I thought the first thing that you were gonna completely roast was Rizzo on the base path again. I was just waiting for that to open up the show.
When he gets on the double, that was the go ahead run today.
Yeah, because he hit the double. Hold on, he hit the double, and the Larry David in you was like, yes, but then he gets thrown out. You were like, you dumb bastard! Like you rounded second, gotten a run down. There would have been a runner on second base with one out. That happens
all the time, though, guys. When it's a first to third, like it was, the runner that hits the ball just keeps running until he's out. Basically, that happens all the time. I'm not even necessarily blaming Rizzo for that.
I was going to agree with you, because on that particular one, I'm like, Rizzo, what are we doing here? What are we doing? You're hanging yourself out to dry. You don't get
like that when he's trying to steal third base with 1 out in the inning, or with 2 outs in the inning.
No, I do. I just was chalking that up to like a something that wasn't happening very often. But this is another one. This is the third one so far I've seen this season, and I'm really hoping it doesn't become a trend, because this one was definitely right in front of you. Like, yeah. You got the hit that we needed. It was exactly what they needed, and then you followed it up with a bonehead move. But it's fine because they won. So yes, the water gets swept under the bridge at that point when you have a victory. But you have to look at those things and remember them, because the next time they're not going to be so lucky. They're going to have to execute in certain plays, and those types of things that you look at in a 1-0 win in May are completely inexcusable come August, September, October, and beyond. So now is the type of stuff where you're cleaning that stuff. You're making these mistakes early in the season so that you're not making those same mistakes later in the year and building.
And you're right, having a runner on second base with only 1 out, maybe you tack on an insurance run and make the end of the game way easier on yourself. Absolutely. Did you think Nestor was going to get the no-no? I thought he was actually going to get it. He was just absolutely dominating. He looked like he was having fun out there, which you don't normally see in no-hitters. You usually see guys like you could see the 1,000-pound weight on their shoulder. But Nestor, I just feel like he doesn't have a care in the world. Like, he's one of these guys, he kind of knows, like, I shouldn't even be here type of thing. Like, I'm living a dream right now. Like, pinch me, is this even reality type of deal with Nasty Nestor? So I thought he was going to get it.
So when he got out there for the 8th, and then that first strikeout, which was like a finesse fastball that was thrown from like essentially sidearm, but it was at a much lowered angle. I was like, oh, he's feeling it. He's getting even more frisky, feeling it at the end, like 100 pitches, like he could still go. Obviously, the Yankees had to score a run there, and they were going to give him the opportunity. If you pitch the 8th, they were going to give him the opportunity, if he got through that, to go into the 9th, to give them at least an opportunity to walk it off and give him the no-hitter. But, he clearly didn't get a base hit. But, man, what a well-pitched game by him. I know he had some walks in there, but worked around things. And he's just every time he's out there, he's fun to watch. He's a lot of fun to watch because of all of the things that he does to get people out.
What we learned today is that Nestor Cortes is better than Clayton Kershaw.
Yes,
just goes out, just willing to go out there for the 8th inning and try and get the no hitter when Clayton Kershaw was not. Obviously, giving Clayton Kershaw, future Hall of Famer, a hard time. Cortez' ERA down to 141. He's got 42 strikeouts and 32 innings pitched. There's this thing that Michael Kay and the broadcast does every time Nestor is out there dealing, that they're just like, how, Paul,
How is it possible?
If you're a hitter against Nestor, like, what are you seeing? How is this possible? He's only throwing 91 miles an hour. He's throwing sidearm. He's throwing three-quarters. He's throwing overhand. He's throwing underhand. He might just start throwing it right-handed for all we know. How's he doing this?
It's magic. It's voodoo. And that's the beauty of it. Look, the guy knows that he can't go out there and get a traditional.
Well, this is when we needed David Cohn in the broadcast.
He's got to change it up. He's got to be a little tricky.
We needed David Cohn in the broadcast booth today because he would have told them, well, actually, Nestor Cortes has great spin rate, and actually, Nestor Cortes has fantastic movement, and his peripherals on his pitches are actually very, very good. So, yes, he's not lighting up the radar gun with 98 miles an hour, but his fastball plays faster than 91 miles an hour. He can locate. He can mix his pitches. He uses all of his pitches, and he can throw all of his pitches for strikes. And that is, it's not the
from different arm angles.
Sexy go out there and just blow you away with 98 miles an hour, but it sure as hell is effective.
Yeah, and you from Nestor, you may get a fastball that one guy has from the same arm slot, the same speed. You may get it at 92 miles an hour, 90 miles an hour, 87 miles an hour from over the top. Maybe go directly over the top like a Jordan Montgomery type, or he may be going down and throwing El Duque style from a couple feet up from the ground. You don't know where it's going to come from. So he's got multiple different variations of every pitch, and that's what makes him so difficult and effective really when you're going through a lineup multiple times, because you're seeing the same guy, but effectively it's not the same guy. He can give you any different look you want.
I pray this continues, obviously, for a few reasons. Yeah, Logan just put Nestor's StatCast information in it. Fastball velocity is in the bottom 4 percentile, but his fastball spin is in the 79th percentile. So obviously it's not all just about the radar gun when it comes to and this is something that we would have no clue on 15 years ago, right? 10 years ago. No clue why Nestor Cortes is having success because his fastball is only 91 miles an hour. But I pray this continues, obviously, because he's helping the Yankees win. But if he's like one of the best pitchers come All-Star break, and there's actually the conversation of Nestor Cortes starting the All-Star game for the American League, like that's going to be gold, baby. It's just going to break people's brains.
It really is. I really hope that's the case. I mean, the guy's trending in the right direction. So here's hoping he can. I don't know how you look if he's executing these pitches, and it's not like as an offense when you're going up against him that you could just make an adjustment and fix this. If he's executing these pitches from all these different angles and doing these different things, there's not one adjustment. There's not two adjustments. Like if he's on his game and he's hitting his spots, you're in trouble because he's figured it out.
You kind of say that about most pitchers in the league, but I think what we saw the bad Nestor game, his previous outing in Toronto, that was the bad Nestor game. He didn't have location. He was walking guys. I think he only pitched 4 innings in Toronto, got out of a lot of jams, but that's sort of the recipe for Nestor to go bad is what we saw against the Blue Jays.
Even today, he pitched 7 1/3. Gave up the 1 hit, 11 strikeouts, but also walked 4 guys. So you're also seeing where location wasn't the best, but at the same time, guys are swinging and missing. And again, that just goes down to, I think, his preparation, the game plan, who he's attacking, and the fact that he can attack them in different ways. And he could do it not only in game, like preparing for a game to attack a lineup, but he can make adjustments in game and make these little tweaks that a lot of pitchers just can't do. So if he's feeling it, and the difference when you said most pitchers can, but I think that he's just got so many different things to go to, and they all feel good to him on a given day, you're in trouble.
How surprised on a scale of 1 to 10, how surprised are you that Nestor Cortes has backed up what we saw last year?
I mean, it's got to be like a 7. You're hoping he can come back and do it, but to this extent, no, you don't.
Well,
you certainly don't expect
better.
it to guy throw into a 1.41 ERA and going up throwing a no hitter in the 8th inning. This is the longest he's ever pitched.
Yeah, it was the highest pitch count ever. Yeah, there was the conversation. That's why I was making jokes about Clayton Kershaw. There were conversations on the broadcast again about, do you bring him back out? This is his highest pitch count ever. There was no doubt in my mind that Boone was going to send him back out there.
Yeah, they were talking about it in the broadcast. Like, if you go out for the 8th inning, you're making that decision at that point. I guess that was the conversation that that Torrey had with Cone.
But Cone,
when he was throwing a no-hitter after
Cone
he came back
from an aneurysm. Okay, Clayton Kershaw's coming back from like 77 back surgeries. Okay, like it's different. Nestor Cortes, this is what, 7th start of the year, 6th start of the year. He can go out there.
Different scenario, but the point being is if you get through the 8th, you're almost in no man's land. You cannot not send him out.
He could have been at 170 pitches, and he has to be sent back out there for the 9th inning.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. I would argue that at 170 pitches, he's not making it through the 8th.
I was
but
exaggerating for effect, okay?
I heard you, and that's why I had to
we
call
We
him
have
out.
to talk about the friggin' umpires yet again. I've said a billion times on this show, I try not to complain about umpires because I think over the course of a season, it evens out. For however many calls the Yankees get screwed on, they're going to get the benefit of the doubt on other calls. But we've seen it now prop up a few times over the past week. Judge continues to get low strike calls on him. DJ LeMahieu had a bad called strike on him and let the umpire know it wasn't a strike. And if DJ's opening his mouth, then you know shit is bad. Like, we've seen a few things from DJ this year that are uncharacteristic. The first being that he showed emotion when he hit the home run against the Red Sox, or when he got the 2-out base hit. I think it was against Toronto early in the season. We saw him chug a beer on TV. I didn't know the man had fun. I thought he'd be studying game film at the Rangers game, and he's out there chugging beers with Judge and Rizzo. And today we saw him jawing at an ump. And then Judge comes up and he gets a strike call. The dugout's obviously been yelling at the umpire, and the umpire like legitimately antagonized Judge. A loud strike call, very animated, and then stares at Judge, just waiting for him to say something. And I'm sorry, you can be an incompetent ump. That's one thing if you just suck at your job. But if you're actually trying to antagonize the team and the player, then you need to be removed from your position as umpire. You have to be completely neutral as an umpire. And if you suck, you suck. But you cannot start antagonizing players.
No, there's no room for emotion when you're an umpire. You have to be objective. You have to do your job based on what you know is a rule and not a rule. Like, you have to be very objective the entire time. If you start throwing emotion and, like you said, antagonizing or throwing looks at people, trying to play this power trip game, now you're inserting yourself into the game. And one of the golden rules of umpiring is don't make it about you. Don't make anything about you. Try to stay invisible as much as you possibly can by doing the right thing, because good umpire games, you don't notice the umpires. They're there facilitating. They're making sure that the game is going along. They're doing the things that they're supposed to be doing. They're being fair and objective. And as soon as that deviates from that, and you get an ego about what is happening. And I understand some things are natural and they just but you have to be able to control that. So it's unwarranted. It's never really at the end of the day, the umpire, worst case, walks away from something. Worst case, has to take that higher.
It's like with the Madison Bumgarner thing from earlier in the week.
And he came out and apologized and admitted that he was wrong. And again, they are human beings. They will do things that are uncharacteristic to how they normally behave, or that, when they look back is I shouldn't have acted in that way. And maybe this is the case here. And I understand that there's a human element to all of this stuff, but there needs to be a recognition of that and not allow it to facilitate or happen on a given day.
And we talked about it last episode with make the adjustment on Aaron Judge. It seems like it's a problem that's just not getting better. Umpires, for whatever reason, can't make the adjustment. And I don't know if the league do you think the league can and should step in here?
I don't know how do they do that? Show them that he's 6'7"?
Well, no, there's
guys,
umpires.
In case you were
umpires
wondering,
get scored for how many
yes,
balls they get right and wrong. So it's I don't know
the leagues they're already tracking that.
And I don't exactly know how they get. I think this. I know that the NFL does this. I don't know if MLB does it, but if you score poorly, you don't get playoff games in the NFL.
Yeah.
Is that?
I think it's the same way for
playoff
baseball.
games mean more money, so that's how they incentivize you to get playoff games. So I don't know. You got to start docking these guys' pay or something. Like, you have to hit them where it hurts. I joked on Twitter today when it happened. I was like, if you allow one punch to be thrown by a player per game, guess what? The umpires are magically going to have the strike zone right on point because they don't want to get popped in the mouth. They also don't want to get popped in the wallet.
That's a way of policing
Yeah.
the game. Yeah, the just one free shot.
You don't know when it could be
You don't know when it's going to
if
come.
you screw up a call, but it's just like if that's in the back of your mind, you better get every call right.
Just fear of getting clocked is the reason why you'll be a better umpire. I don't know if that'll work.
A great motivator.
I don't know if that'll work. What if you're bracing for impact while the
you
pitch
got to
is
take
still
off your
being
mask.
crossing home plate?
Someone pointed out, it's like, what if they?
So you have to. So not only are you going to get clocked in the face, but you have to take off your mask and just take it. Got it. This is a flawed system.
But seriously, you have to hit them where it hurts, which is money.
Well, money, and I think, and that the playoff scenario is that's something that
so playoff games mean more money, but you're not necessarily docking their pay if you don't get a playoff game. So you need to, just like how a player can get fined or a manager can get fined, like, I don't know, umpires, maybe they need to be able to get fined.
For what in particular?
So
because
bad.
It's not like a guy doesn't get fined, like Joey Gallo doesn't get fined for striking out as much as he does.
Aaron Hicks should get fined for being so bad with runners on base.
But, if they were to do something that were, outside of the game and outside the realm of the game, then yeah. And I think that umpires can also get fined for those transgressions as well. So, or suspended. That happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's just I hate talking about umpires. I think it's such a tired narrative to blame umpires for a team losing. But when it's basically once a series, there's just horrific series of umpire calls. It's impossible to ignore.
And I mean, this is how you get to robo umps
at some point. It's got to be
exactly how you get that
later. But I don't know. It's
for the strike zone. I mean, they have the technology to do it right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the frustrating thing. It's like we know that this could be happening right now. They're doing it in the minor leagues, right? And we know that it could be better right now, but we have to still watch these humans suck. And I think to me, it seems like they're getting worse. And I've said before, the strike zone box on TV is the worst thing that ever happened to umpires and to viewers, frankly, because now we know when it's not a strike. Whereas before, when this box wasn't there, we're like, that looked like a strike, but also I'm just watching on TV. It could be whatever. But now it's like, oh, the dot is outside the box.
Yeah, what are you looking at? Can't you see that, jackass?
If you had to rank the Yankees from bottom up, whose do you want up with runners on base in a key situation last on the team?
Joey Gallo.
And then who?
And then Aaron Hicks, given the recent sample size.
Yeah, I said Aaron Hicks 1, Joey Gallo 2. It's a complete coin flip for me. It's Hicks's at bats with men on base. If he doesn't walk, he doesn't do anything productive. And it happened again on Sunday in the doubleheader. It's just terrible. And he had such a lame swing at an off-speed pitch. He wasn't even competitive. I don't know. I know overall he's been decent. And with no one on base, he puts together better at-bats. I don't know what it is, if it's a mental thing with him. But, man, those nothing at-bats in key situations when you're trying to scratch and claw and come back are just killers.
He does. He feels like he's. We mentioned this before, but it's almost like he's in between approaches. He because when he's in the leadoff spot, he's working the count. He's doing the things that a leadoff hitter does well, and you start seeing that on base percentage really ramp up. But it's almost like he's pressing in other opportunities when he needs to actually be impactful, and try to knock in runs. You can't have that same approach, and that's the difference. That was what that conversation went to, and they were actually referring to it as well for the way Boone thinks about certain things. Like DJ does not have that same problem. DJ is able to turn the switch and turn an at bat in a given situation into a productive at bat for that situation. And I think that's the biggest difference is the situation in which Aaron Hicks is doing well, and then the opportunities when he's not doing well, and it's pretty clear deviation from what's happening when he's up.
Higgy bunted ahead of him to put the runners on second and third for Hicks to come up, and it's just like, okay, I get it. It's a bunt situation. It's not like Higgy is the guy you want up in that situation either. So I guess I want Higgy bunting, but damn, I really don't want to trust Hicks to just get a sac fly or something like that because he seems incapable.
Yeah, but the scenario is the right scenario, getting him
know.
over for an opportunity to get that run in. So it makes a lot of sense.
Higgy caught Cole, so broke the Trevino pattern.
It's only 2. Remember, 3. You need a third
Yep.
for a pattern. This was not a pattern.
It was trending towards a pattern. Cole was awesome. He was reaching 100 miles an hour on the radar gun deep into the game. He talked himself back out for the 7th inning. Unfortunately, he gives up the home run to Calhoun. And after the game, he's talking about how he didn't want to walk him. It's a one-run game there. Ends up giving up the game-tying home run. I mean, listen, I'm not going to complain about Cole's start. It was an awesome start. When you talk yourself out there for the extra inning and then you give up the home run, it's a tough look.
Well, he was clearly, you could see the frustration on his face too. He knew that he lobbied to get back out there, and then one got away from him. So, but again, man, I love almost every single time. I'll take the guy with the fire that's trying to get back out there and have the confidence to shove over a guy that doesn't want the ball. Give me that every single time. And clearly he had the confidence to go out there. It just didn't work out in that particular pitch. But yeah, he was really good again. This is just another start where we're seeing that, maybe in Detroit on that weird night, it was just a very fluky evening, and he just wasn't there in whatever capacity, like physically, mentally, all of the above. He just wasn't.
Does any
there.
other starter on the Yankees get to lobby his way into the game?
Nestor Cortes. Try arguing against Nestor Cortes, and he'll come at you from any angle with another
I don't think
rebuttal.
Nestor had to lobby to stay in today's game. I think he was out there till he gave up a hit. But yeah, I think Cole's the only one that Boone changes his mind on.
I mean, I think depending on where we are in the season and like what's happening, Severino's the type of guy too that has that emotion that can carry you through. Because we've also seen Severino where, a 4th, 5th inning, he shows a little bit of a lapse, and then he comes back and he's just electric again after an inning that was, non-efficient. He's done that time and time again when he's on the mound, where, he shows that extra life is real for him. Like he doesn't get, he can rebound. And I think Cole's that type of guy. And you know what, like Severino's the type of person where if it's August, September as well, and he's having a damn good year, you're treating him like that ace that Cole is to me, and you're trusting your guy in the moment to get him back out there if his stuff still feels good.
Yeah, I think Severino, if he's still pitching well in 3-4 months from now, you got a case there. But I don't know if he lobbies for his next time out. I don't think he wins that case.
Well, I think he's in a different world where they're still making sure. I mean, they're giving him extra time. He was supposed to pitch today or yesterday. And, now he's pitching, which I don't hate, to be honest, like with the matchup. And I'm sure some of it was strategic so that Toronto is facing him. But they're giving him a day off if they can in certain areas. Like they'll give him that 6th day if they can, just to work. That's goes back to
managing the innings.
How they're managing his innings and managing the stress on his body.
Yeah, if it's one fewer start, I mean, that's 5 to 7 innings fewer, right? So, I mean, it certainly adds up. The Gleyber walk-off, we do have a mailbag question about Gleyber, so we'll talk about him more in depth. But what I want to talk about is Chris Woodward after the game calling it a cheap home run. Yankee Stadium's a little league stadium. That home run's not out anywhere. Really just went all in on the short porch bashing. And then obviously there's that Twitter account. I think it's called Would It Dong, which I appreciate. It's a great name. That it would have been out in 26 out of 30 parks. So, numbers don't lie, Chris Woodward. And then I found it ironic that in game 2, his team got a home run that would have only been a home run in 2 out of 30 parks. So, it's almost like both teams play at the same dimensions when they're playing at Yankee Stadium. Who would have thunk it? But it's really just like whether you give up a 700-foot walk-off home run or a 315-foot home run down, just shut up. Shut up with the cheapness. It just is such a bad look. If Boone ever said something like this, like if they're playing at Fenway Park and the Red Sox hit a bullshit home run off pesky pole. Boone better not say anything like this.
Boone can't say anything about home runs in the postseason against the Red Sox, but he would be set up right there for instant ridicule. But no, Woodward has shoved his foot in his mouth in the past too. He's just a jackass, and he's still, I think, maybe a little bitter for the Yankees not extending the position to him because he was in the running for the job, the managerial job as well with Boone. So maybe there's just some pent up aggression on him. But yeah, why he's not complaining when the next game the ball goes over the park, the same exact wall in a much shorter execution style there, and he's happy for it. So of course you're going to be happy for that.
Yeah, and whether you really buy into the park factor rankings and stuff like that, Yankee Stadium's actually not that crazy of a hitter's park. It's a park factor of 98, which is 22nd worst ballpark to hit in. And since 2019, it's averaged 106 home runs to this point in the season, which ranks 12th in all of ballparks. So it's kind of middle of the road for home runs. Like, yes, we know. Right down the right field, just call it right field, is easy to hit home runs. The ball flies out there. You can get some cheap home runs to right field. The rest of the stadium is not cheap. And I think if you hit a ball to the gaps, to left center, obviously, and center, it's going to keep the ball in the park. David Cohn mentions this all the time. Voight even had a quote on this, called it a huge stadium.
This is what I don't understand. If it's so easy, and you're calling it like, Mickey Mouse, little league type thing, then just do it every at bat. If it's so friggin' easy and it's just a thing, just pepper the right field wall during every at bat. Go into the game and try to pepper the wall. That should be your approach, right? If it's so simple to do, then do it. It's giving it to you right there. It's right there for the taking. It's not moving. Hasn't moved. It's gonna be there. Next inning, it's also gonna be there. Go ahead. Pepper the wall. Do that. Get all the cheap home runs. Go ahead. No, but that's not a real thing. So I don't understand anybody complaining about any park ever, because these are the dimensions. They've always been the dimensions. Everybody plays the same thing. And if you are going to take advantage of it, then do it. Take advantage of it. It's there.
Yeah, and the Yankees short porch is by no means the craziest ballpark element we've seen actually being played like on the major leagues. The Astros had a hill in center field. In modern day, they had a hill in center field, okay? And then they removed that hill to put cameras in center field.
Oh. Yeah.
No, they did.
It's not the most ridiculous. I know. It felt like a dig at the same time. That's why I did the ooh. But yeah, no, it's not a crazy thing. I don't understand why people still complain to this day about it. I will never complain about the Fenway monster unless it goes against me and I'm just frustrated. I'm not blaming the ballpark, but the situation. You know what you can also do? You can pitch around it too. You can actually play.
I mean, that's why it's called home field advantage, right? If legitimate,
this is why the Orioles moved their fence back so that they could play, so that they could attack free agency whenever they get money to spend on pitchers, and it would be more attractive for them to go to Baltimore with the new field dimensions.
Every other sport, talking major professional American sports, the dimensions of the field, of the court, of the rink are the exact same no matter where you're playing. The home field advantage comes for the home crowd and stuff like that. Yes, you can add domes and turf and all that kind of stuff. Baseball is the unique sport where the dimensions change. It makes it interesting. It makes it so it's a real home field advantage. If you have in Yankee Stadium, you have left-handed power. That's why it's a freaking house that Ruth built. That's how the freaking franchise started, okay? I think it's a cool element. Do I wish that the Yankees didn't have maybe I wish it was just as like at the old Yankee Stadium, as I've said before, just a few feet back, but still, overall, I'm in favor of parks having different dimensions.
I was having this conversation with somebody when I was in Las Vegas, actually, about soccer, and they had one of the matches on, and I'm like, I just started talking out of my ass, basically, because that's what I do when I watch that sport. And I did not know that each field or pitch, if you're speaking the right lingo, has different dimensions. A lot of them have different dimensions. Because what I was complaining about is like the arbitrary piece of extra time. And like, who the hell is determining this extra time? Why don't they just put a friggin' clock on it when someone is in and out? And like came around to the discussion with I forget whoever was really giving it to me the other side of it. I was open to the argument, but I did not know that they have different size fields. They do. That's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. So though I hear things about soccer and I'm like, I think I'd like that sport. And then I just can't get into it.
It's because we don't have the emotional tie to a team and players. That's it. Like, I don't know if I'll ever, unless, you're watching USA and USA, like I can get behind that. That gives me some, patriotism. I can feel something there, but like watching I would have to like go all in on a team. And I don't know how I force that, to be honest.
The time zone doesn't.
At this point in my life, I think it's impossible.
You're over the hill as far as becoming a diehard soccer. Yeah. So Michael King, first bad outing of the season. I'm not going to say he's turning back into a pumpkin. I still have a lot of confidence in him, but he did cough up game 2, comes in a spot with an inherited runner, and then ends up giving up the bomb that was the go-ahead run. And, I think it was just an off outing for him. I forget who hit the home run. Was it I'm forgetting whoever he gave. Brad Miller gave the home run.
The guy
he just jumped on a fastball. They talked about it on the broad, like just sitting fastball, jumped on a fastball.
If anybody's mad about this, like check yourself, because this guy has been so friggin' good, and that's why it feels almost dirty when you're complaining about this team in certain ways, because they've been so good, and him in particular has been so dominant when he comes in very, very tough situations. So he's going to give up more home runs too, and he's probably going to walk some guys in key situations that don't work out well for the Yankees at some point this season. And what Boone's job is just to keep going back to him, because the stuff is there, the nasty is there, and he's been, overwhelmingly better in situations than obviously like a little blip on the radar. So
the one thing,
zero concern about this.
One thing I didn't love is that he did warm up in game 1, didn't get into game 1, and then 4 hours later gets into game 2. I'm not saying that's the excuse as to why he didn't pitch well. It's just, we talked about this, right? B-whips. Guy only has so many bullets in the arm every day. Let's not do that. I feel like that could have been avoided. He's warming up in game 1. Use him in game 1.
But multiple times we were touching on this. First of all, you can have multiple guys warming up at one time. It happens all the time. And one guy goes in and the other guy does not go in. It happens all the time, because you don't know what's going to happen in a given situation. Someone might pinch hit for somebody. Somebody might, who knows? There might be a runner on. You might have more confidence. You want to get prepared. This is part of their job, is to be up and down, up and down. That's inherently what comes along with being a guy in the bullpen. So, I don't think it had anything to do with it. I think that this is something that these guys are used to doing. And
he went to Loizaga.
Unfortunately, he got attacked
Loizaga instead of Michael King in
pitches.
game 1. I just feel like you could have gone to Michael King there and then save Loizaga in game 2. I understand if you're warming up a lefty and a righty, depending on matchups, like that's unavoidable. You have to have both guys ready to go. But when they're both right-handed pitchers, Michael King's been better than Loizaga so far this year, seemingly pitching in a more high leverage role than Loizaga over the past week to 2 weeks. Could it?
You don't know what the analytics are saying, though, from one guy to another. They could have been very drastically different splits, depending on who was coming up next, depending on the given situation.
That's what you're going with? The analytics
That's exactly what I'm going with.
Dictate that it was Loizaga.
Analytics splits, big time splits on the analytics. The nerds were split. So they are like,
any other things you want to touch on from the Texas series before we move on to some injury news?
They need to use this downtime, this the get the bats going again for Toronto. They need to figure that one out pretty quickly. They got Barrios.
We're gonna preview that series.
We're gonna preview them, but now's the time to get that back up. So that's the beauty. Like they got through it and still got the series win. Now the bats got to come back.
Castro was placed on the IL with a lat injury. Rortvedt began his rehab assignment in Tampa, Single A. And Domingo Germán actually expected back as soon as late May. Kind of Germán fell off my radar.
Yeah, what do you even do with him?
Can't put him back point? You don't put him in the rotation at this point unless there's an
injury.
No,
you keep him stretched out. But do you stretch him out and keep him stretched out in AAA as an insurance piece? To me, that's what I would do.
Yeah, because I don't think he adds much value in the bullpen, and you don't take any of these starters out right now.
No. So, and with Devi Garcia not being the guy that they thought he was, like the pecking order as far as Guys who are stretched out is a little bit less.
Well,
I could see. I don't know what his option is. What's his situation with options? That's something to look at. That could potentially affect how he's used and like where he's rostered. But if there are available options for him and he's able to be down there, I would certainly keep him in AAA and keep him stretched out.
We're seeing Schmidt get a start this week, and they obviously have been stretching him out. And he pitched in long relief out of the bullpen a couple times. Got the win when Cole had his bad start in Detroit, and then didn't he pitch another in relief?
He did. It was after like 11 days, I think. He got in. And then I think he had a start in Scranton as well, right? So they're certainly, that's something that we were looking at. Like, who's the guy that they're going to keep stretched out? And Schmidt's a guy that they want in that starting rotation, if possible, as a guy that can go longer.
Herman has one option left. But my point is, if Schmidt's getting a start this week, when and if Herman comes back and is kept stretched out in the minors, who do they call up first to give a start to, Schmidt or Herman? I feel like Schmidt is right now ahead of him.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
He is ahead of him.
And it's just, again, because the rotation has been so good, the pitching staff has been so good, it just completely fell off my radar. And that's a good
Same with the bullpen. He doesn't step in and make this team better at all, anywhere. So you need to keep him as an insurance piece.
Wait, who did you say?
Herman.
Yeah.
He's really just an insurance piece. Or this is one of those like middle of the week transactions where Domingo Herman gets moved for a player to be named later or cash considerations,
bonus pool money,
or international bonus money if you can do that during the season right now. Yeah. I could see that. Like, let's just be gone. And now you're gone out of our brains forever. Thank you.
I wanted to spend a couple of minutes talking about all of the big shortstops that the Yankees passed on this winter, because Corey Seager and Marcus Semien were in town. Obviously, Marcus Semien's playing second base, but played shortstop last year. So IKF this season is slashing 288, 337, 363. He's got a 110 WRC plus and 0.7 F4. Now, he has been in a little bit of a slump the last few games, but he was fantastic during the 11-game stretch. So, again, 0.7 F4 is better than Corey Seager, who has 0.6 F4. Carlos Correa has 0.4 F4. Trevor Story, who has negative 0.1 WAR. And Marcus Semien, who has negative 0.2 WAR. Marcus Semien had like a 490 OPS coming into the Yankees series. 490 OPS. That's worse than pitchers. That's how bad Marcus Semien has been. And Trevor Story, which I was listening to some Boston radio the other day, and they want Trevor Story gone. They're already running him out of town. They're calling him Carl Crawford 2.0.
That's hilarious. It's been a month. Of all of them, Story was the most predictable, I think, is the Semien. I'm shocked that it's just a matter of time, because that guy's hit his entire career. He hits everywhere he's gone. He's hit. He got drafted in a fantasy league, and I definitely picked him up because he's going to hit and he's going to rip.
Him. Like he's been off to a bad start. Like I'm highlighting this off to a bad start, but let's not go crazy here.
Agreed. And I was like, that was stupid. So that's why I'm like, this is a guy that will eventually hit. Obviously he's not in the same lineup that he was last year. That doesn't help matters. But I mean, the guy hit in Oakland too.
He's been a great player his whole career.
He's a professional hitter.
But my point is that IKF has been better offensively than all of those players. I'm not saying he will be better at the end of the season, but through a month plus of the season, and here we are, and IKF has been better than Corey Seager, Carlos Correa, Trevor Story, and Marcus Semien.
Hell yeah. I love that. I mean, there's no other way to say it. IKF is the truth. He does all the things that you want him to do. I love him.
So it's just very interesting.
I said on Twitter the other day, imagine having to like force to root for Carlos Correa at this point in the season, because that's what we would all be doing. We'd be forcing ourselves to do it, especially if he's struggling. And you get a guy like IKF, all hustle, all heart, all grit. Just give me that all day long. Give me all those guys. Give me the Hawaiian hustle over some jackass that you're forcing me to root for. Like, I just didn't want to be put in that situation. I'm so very glad we're not.
Carlos Correa hasn't been awful. He's hitting 255. He's got a 109 WRC plus, 0.4 F4. But if Carlos Correa signed with the Yankees, unless he had a 160 WRC plus and 2 WAR at this point in the season, he would be getting booed mercilessly, okay? Because it was a lose-lose situation for him pretty much coming to New York.
It was it was a difficult situation, not only for him, but for all of us. And very selfishly, I'm more concerned about all of us having to look at that guy and root for him on a daily basis. Just didn't want to do it. It's the plain truth.
And I could have gotten clearly behind Corey Seager. I would have been behind if they signed Marcus Semien, or even if they signed Trevor Story, I would have talked myself into getting behind that move, even though he can't hit right-handed pitching. But I don't know how I would have talked myself into Carlos Correa. He was that disliked.
Yeah, no doubt. And now we have IKF, who's just like a vision of hope.
All right, let's take a look at the upcoming week. We're going to do so. We're going to pick a game to bet on. We're going to do it with WynnBET. If you live in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Louisiana, Michigan, New Jersey, which is where I am, New York, Tennessee, or Virginia, which is where Scott is, Logan, you're in New York, so we all count. We can all win some money this week. Well, you're in luck. You can download the WynnBET app, and you can use code XBlueWire. It's a new code. We've been telling you a different code, but they updated the code. It's XBlueWire, all one word, and it's a special offer. You can bet $50 and win $200. You can also go to wynnbet.com, and you can see all the different odds that they have, parlays, and all that stuff. They're bringing the excitement of the Wynn Casino to your mobile device. All right, Scott, what game are you betting on this week?
So when you're looking at the week, you're looking at obviously Toronto, and then they go to
Weird
Chicago
2-game series against Toronto. Like, they just played 4 at home against Toronto, seemingly not too long ago. Now they're playing another 2-game series.
They
haven't even played Tampa yet at all. It's like, I don't understand the schedule sometimes.
Yeah, and there's like another 4-game set that's going to offset this 2-game set. It's just it's strange in the way that they do this. But I'm actually looking beyond. If I'm betting, I'm looking beyond Toronto. Those games to me are just such a toss-up. If I can avoid them, I will. Even though I like Kikuchi coming back and shutting this team down again. I think that's going to be a very difficult task for him.
That'll be the third time the Yankees are seeing Kikuchi in like a 3-week span. I have to, even though they didn't hit for shit over the weekend, I have to imagine they're going to hit Kikuchi.
Agreed. I think that's a tough matchup for him. For him, that's a real for him. Just speaking as a guy competing against, that's a hard task. For a strong right-handed lineup as well. Like, that's a very difficult. And some of the lefties that hit lefties well.
Any pitcher.
That's tough.
If it's Garrett Cole or if it's DeGrom going out there for a 3rd time against a team in 3 weeks, that's a tough matchup.
Yeah. So Severino, I'm looking at that game as one. But again, if I'm trying to avoid Toronto, I will. And Dallas Keuchel has not been the guy. He's not been the guy that he used to be. He's not the scary Dallas Keuchel. Not that he was scary, but he was on Houston. He was dominant. Not that guy. Garrett Cole going up against him. Chicago, the way that Cole's been pitching, I think we got to ride the horse. I like that. And I think that the way that Keuchel throws and he's just not the same guy that he's been in the past, that he matches up well, or the Yankees match up well to him. I could see them tacking on some runs against Dallas Keuchel and feeling really good about it.
The starters have not officially been announced for the White Sox series. It's a 4-game series, and Garrett Cole is lined up to pitch game 2, and Dallas Keuchel is lined up to pitch game 2 as well. So that's the matchup we're going with. But regardless, if, say, Garrett Cole is, for whatever reason, pushed to Saturday, I still like Garrett Cole. He's just looked so good his last 3 times out. He was throwing 100 miles an hour on his 105th pitch in this past outing. And so whether he's facing a different pitcher, I still like that Garrett Cole matchup. The Yankees will be facing Michael Kopech. He's off to a filthy start for the White Sox. They got Kopech in the Chris Sale trade along with Yoan Moncada. So he used to be a Red Sox pitching prospect. He was one of the top pitching prospects in the game for a while. I think he dealt with some injuries. But
he has definitely dealt with injuries. I think that he's still, maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's Jordan Hicks now, but he had the fastest ball thrown in a game like clocked. It was something stupid, was like 107 or something ridiculous.
The college kid who threw 105 or something over the weekend.
I think that's him. I'm pretty sure that's him. I'm gonna Logan check that out. But yeah, there's a guy. He's definitely one of those guys.
He was the guy. Wasn't he the guy who said just off head, like, oh, I would throw 108 miles an hour, like if I could, or something like that.
Well, you can just do it. like what's he saying? Like, oh, in the perfect scenario, if the mound was just right and the inside no wind or something like that indoors. Regardless, he's been on fire this season.
Okay, so like 100 goes viral with 110 mile per hour pitch in the minors. Yeah, Kopech has reached 105 in live game action. Hold on, let me read this to you. Yeah, and then 107 was like the clock. I don't know when these
I think
were.
there's a limit to the human body, and I don't know if 110 is doable.
He was 107 is where he was clocked in a game in 2017.
Jesus.
So yeah, he was up there as one of those. And yeah, you're going to have arm issues, bro. If you're throwing 107 miles per hour, you're going to have arm issues. So I'm sure he's dialed it down a little bit. They haven't been. Again, I'm very happy to play fantasy baseball this year because it's really keeping me in touch with all the other players. He hasn't been able to go beyond 5 innings this year, so they're definitely managing his
5 innings. Yeah,
yeah. I don't know what he's been clocked at this year, but definitely
he's having a great season, and he's lined up to pitch against Jordan Montgomery. Montgomery again, Montgomery's kind of flying under the radar, right? The Yankees get him no run support. His record is. If you still look at record, it's not good, but he doesn't get run support. He pitched another good game over the weekend.
He did. He's a rock, man. He's another one of these guys that you feel really good with going into a game. And, like Nestor, he's got so many different, they're not different arm angles necessarily, but he's got a large repertoire where he can come at you with the kitchen sink. So he's a lot of fun. Every time I watch him, he gives me a reminder of the way Andy Pettitte pitched. Even stylistically, there's a lot of similarities there. So I think he's a rock, man. He's one of these guys that just you can tell works his ass off, prepares really well, and comes in with a good game plan.
Another thing that the rainouts did, unfortunately, for the Yankees is it puts them in a stretch where they're going to be playing, 23 games in 22 days, all culminating with the Rays 4-game series at the end. That's a tough stretch. I know a bunch of the games are against Baltimore and stuff like that, but that many games in that many days finishing with Tampa, that's a hard stretch.
That's a hard stretch. They do have some games where they should be winning, but yeah, kind of ending it with Tampa for the first time coming in there. That's definitely a difficult task, but it's going to be a fun culmination of it too.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
They're going to be tired.
It's one of those things you get through it and you play, solid, but you're not going to win 11 in a row again, but you win most of those series and you get out of that strong, you feel good about it.
For sure. I think if where they are going into that Tampa series will be very interesting to see the way that they have played against some subpar teams, because there's a lot of wins in there too. That's the thing. There's a lot of wins in that stretch.
All right, that's going to wrap it up. Again, if you want to wager some cash on the game that we're going to be betting on, which is Garrett Cole start, you can do it with the WinBet app. Use code XBlueWire to get your special offer. Anything else you want to mention, Scott?
I'm excited how they handle it. The fact that I'm curious to look at how they treat Stanton throughout this entire stretch too, and where they're going to be sitting him, how many games they're going to be putting him out. But I'm curious to see how that stretch lands on, and how Boone really manages the entire thing. Like, this is where he is put on display in the way that he manages all these guys. There's so many interchanging parts. It'll be interesting to see.
12:35 start on Wednesday. I don't quite understand where the 12:35 comes from. Is it one of the Peacock games or something? Is it a Peacock game? No,
it's in Chicago, isn't it?
It's against the Blue Jays at home. 12:35.
Oh, that's the Wednesday Blue Jay
getaway day.
I forgot today was Monday because it was a day game.
It was weird. Like they just didn't want to start it at 1:05, so they're doing 12:35. We're going to be recording after that Wednesday game, and that episode will be posted after that. So that'll be the next time we talk to you guys. Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you in a few days.